Hi everyone, Robert Peak here, the Spontaneous Dungeon Master. I've treated myself to binding up a new copy of the just released Spontaneous Dungeon Master Companion. If you haven't already checked out the kind of quick overview of what this is and how I recommend that you print this out and set this up, that would be a good thing to do now. We're going to go into some detail about the different sections here, the cities, the NPCs, the travel, and the dungeons, and the ways that I recommended you tab this out, and give you some practical examples of how you would actually use this thing, both for a very quick preparation and in the heat of the moment, in the heat of battle, when your players are doing stuff you didn't anticipate. So I'm going to skip over the very first section, which is about the adventure idea generator and noun-based preparation and a bit on the 3 acts that you can use. I would like to come back to that so we can talk about preparing sessions and even preparing campaigns using some of those tools. But for now, flip over to cities. The cities section begins with city elements. So, you know, your players and their characters, maybe they're traveling over land and they need to stop somewhere overnight, or maybe they're in a big metropolis already and you're struggling a little bit to add some flavor, add some character to this place, you know, make it interesting, give them some hooks, give them something to engage with in this city. You're role-playing in a city, you're role-playing in a town or a hamlet, and you need to bring some life to this thing. So the city elements table is in kind of the typical format for this guide, laid out as 5 d20 tables, right? So 5 tables where you can roll a 20-sided die and consult any of these 5 tables for a specific element that you want, such as town features, town events, taverns and inns, more unique elements about the town, or people in politics about the town. So you can do that, and also you can roll what we call a d100, which is really just 2 d10s, and get any single element off of this list quickly and easily as well. So let's just say, you know, we're in the moment where they're about to approach, you know, the town of, I don't know, Zellross. I've never looked up Zellross in the Forgotten Realms before, so I don't actually have anything prepared about it, but they're traveling through Zellross, and I'm going to roll a d100 here, and I get 72. So 72 is under unique elements. There's a huge house in Zellross with giant inhabitants. So I'm going to play that up. The first thing they notice is a whole bunch of kind of normal-sized dwellings, and then right in the middle, it looks like maybe it's a big lodge or meeting house, but it has gigantic-sized doors in it. So already I'm often thinking, who are these gigantic inhabitants? Are they actual giants? Yeah, sure, all right, they're actual giants, but they're actually friendly. In fact, one of the giants is the mayor of the town. Suddenly, you know, you've got this really weird, unique town, as the unique elements table, you know, would suggest, that you can start to add hooks with. You can start to engage the players with. Maybe, you know, who knows? Maybe there's a secret assassination attempt on this giant, or maybe the giant is fickle and it goes from being sort of good aligned to sort of evil and chaotic at times, and so the villagers are in its thrall. All kinds of great options just with that, right? Suddenly the town of Zellross, which could have just been, we're passing through, there's a tavern for a night, everyone take a long rest and drink lots of mead, and we'll get on with the real adventure to, you know, when you wake up. Suddenly, there's something really interesting going on in Zellross. That was just one roll. Again, there's 100 of these on this table alone. Now, let's say you're doing some prep, and you actually want to make the city the thing that's cool, the element that you want to be at the fore of this upcoming one-shot or session that you're running, or even the campaign that you're planning to run in a new city. So here we can roll 5 times to get, you know, let's see, the town features for guild hall or trade town. So it's a big kind of trade town. We can decide, let's say they're all a bunch of jewelers, right? So it's a big, wealthy, kind of known for its jewelry. The jewelers guild hall is, you know, an important part of the town. Town events, as they come into town, there's a nobleman's visit, 19. A nobleman's visit is going on, and there are games and contests going on. There might actually be jewelry-related contests. There might be jousting, games for the children. So as soon as the people either come into this town or wake up that morning, they're hearing trumpets, they're hearing the sound of cheering crowds, that kind of thing. Now, where can they stay for the night? Well, here you could roll several, you know, d20s. And what's fun about taverns too is they're almost all 2-word taverns, so you can mix and match the words. So rather than the wandering mimic, and the hanged man. You could have the wandering man and the hanged mimic or something like that. Right? You can mix and match these. But let's just go with one taverner in. Number 6 is the Misty Beard, and the Misty Beard is run by a centaur. So as they come in, they might notice the barman, they're at the bar serving drinks, and then the next thing you know, he walks out from behind the bar on his 4 horse legs. So already there's an interesting tavern. There's stuff you can do there. There's a story to tell. Unique elements 20. This town is deeply racist. You already have a centaur in town. We got a bunch of jewelers. We got a festival going on. It may be that there's an enclave of centaurs that are kind of outcasts in this town, or maybe if you have a particular party approaching and coming into this town, maybe their deeply held prejudices are against the race of one of the party members. Now you can change this around too. It doesn't have to be deeply racist. It could be deeply prejudiced in some other way. So that there is maybe some kind of underclass here. Or again, particularly fun is to find ways to tie it in with your party. Okay, so people in politics, just a 1. This town is controlled by the Zentarum. So Zentarum are a kind of mercenaries guild. So maybe they've got the market cornered on the jewelers' modes of transport. They're the ones that are kind of the mercenaries and the guards that transport the jewelry in and out. These kind of armed guards. They also take a hefty cut, and they've kind of got the whole town under their thumb. So you've got an interesting town, and exploring it and figuring out what's going on. And hey, what's up with that nobleman's visit? Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Is he promoting the prejudices of the town? Or is he there to kind of try and reform things? And how are the players going to fit in with all of this? Remains to be seen. But in just a couple minutes, you've put a city at the fore of your upcoming campaign with a lot of color in it that you can play around with. So again, you can use this as little or as much as you like. You can roll just a few D100s. Here's number 2. It's just a ghost town. The whole place is abandoned. Maybe it's a real ghost town. Maybe you've got some banshees and some wights and something for a cleric to do in the town, right, to purge the place. 43, one of the taverns is called the Sleepy Satyr, and there's a bootleg operation. Maybe they're going to be hired to investigate the bootleg operation, figure out what's going on with that. And maybe there's a kind of subplot underneath all that. Like maybe the bootleggers aren't such bad guys in the end, and they find out there's a twist. All kinds of ideas, and as you can see, I'm already just kind of catching fire with riffing on these ideas. Part of why is that I designed all of these. These are all ideas I like, right? I've curated them from other lists, from my own brainstorming, so I can't go wrong here. I can't lose, because all of this is stuff that I think would be fun to throw into a campaign. So I highly encourage you not only to use and play around with these lists, but to modify them. To strike out stuff you don't like or think is dumb, and to add in stuff that you do like, or even to create your own tables like this so that you can quickly spark yourself with creativity and with ideas, and make sure that your towns aren't just, again, a place to pass through, a place to pick up equipment from the player's handbook, a place to order drinks and get a long rest, but they're alive, they're an adventure in themselves. So that's the city elements, and that's what can bring life and color to your cities. City items, so I combined kind of items you might find in a city or settlement of some kind with items you might find on a humanoid, because they're all kind of similar. So again, this is 5 set of D20 tables, and you can just say when the thief picks the pocket of some local passerby, yes, they get 5 gold pieces, but they also get 87. They get a pouch that smells like frying fish. Okay, well that was actually more for a settlement or a warehouse, but we can say it smells like frying fish, or let's say there were even some fish at the bottom. So they've got they got the gold, but they also got something disgusting with it. So there's different types of people and different types of settings, campsites, settlements, and buildings. Oddballs. What's an oddball going to have? That could be a green hag or an unusual NPC of some kind might have on them. 19, a wooden yo-yo that spins forever. Creepy. And is that cursed? Is there something there? Maybe that in itself is a little plot hook to discover. So as you can see, just putting stuff, what they in the spy business call pocket lint, in your characters' pockets and in the locations, in the campsites or the buildings and settlements that they discover, can in itself create an interesting hook. I once put a desiccated leaf underground, and the druid caught onto this and thought it was interesting, and summoned the leaf to him and put it in his pocket, and the next thing you knew, it was actually the preserved remains of an archdruid. He planted it in this incredible tree, spouted up, and he had this communing experience with one of the great archdruids of the realms. It was a random roll. That just happened to be a leaf underground, seemed a little weird. He wanted to check it out more. Next thing you know, this whole adventure sprung from a single bit of pocket lint, a single bit of dungeon dressing or decoration. So these are for cities and for people in particular, but just a little bit of dressing rather than, oh yeah, it's 3d10 gold and it's this and it's that. Just a little bit sprinkled in here and there can make a big difference to making the places and the people that you encounter in cities feel alive. The third and last page on the cities is city encounters and chase complications. So your party's going along through the city. Let's say they split the party and half the party goes off to the market. Well, let's give it a d20. And 6, a dog starts tugging at the PC's, maybe their pant leg, their trouser leg, attempting to lead them somewhere. And maybe they lead them down an alley to a beggar that's recently been assaulted. As they get there, the beggar is actually a lycanthrope and springs into were-rat form and begins attacking them. And he's in it with, the dog is in it with him, and it's this little routine they have. Suddenly you've got a little combat encounter for half the party that just thought they were having a nice day at the market. Again, I'm just rolling these randomly and riffing, but it's a lot of fun, as you can see. Chase complications, let's say the were-rat gets away and they're running through the streets and they're pursuing them. And so I like to do these as what you call skill challenges, which is a series of skill checks, 3 successes and you catch up, 3 failures and you don't roll your strength athletics, but up to, once per turn, you can roll this, and let's say they get an 8. A different beggar comes up to them and is trying to solicit money off of them. They need to make a DC 10 strength athletics or dexterity acrobatics or charisma check to pass through and get by the beggar and carry on pursuing this were-rat. Or if they bribe them, they can get through automatically. They throw them a few gold. Otherwise, it's more like difficult terrain. As they're traversing this, it might count as a failure on their skill check, and were-rat's getting away. So maybe this is actually another beggar that he planted along the way. He led them through. He's also in it with them, trying to stall them so the were-rat that assaulted them can get away. That's a whole, that could be half an hour, that could be a good part of a campaign right there, and it could be the start of a whole thing. Maybe there's a whole group of lycanthropes, pulling these kind of scams all throughout the city. So as you can see, I find this just really fun and highly creative. It's a great thing that you can just do in the moment. A single roll, if you're willing to just try it out and go with it, can give you just enough fuel to get things going and to make things interesting again in a session that's maybe potentially flagging a little, or in a session where you're just wanting to improvise the whole time. It's also a great tool for preparing around a city, to prepare elements that are flavorful and interesting. You don't need a lot. Don't overdo this to where it kind of becomes complicated and doesn't make sense in terms of how it all fits together. But a little bit of this kind of seasoning can go a really long way to making sure that you can be spontaneous in a city setting and have a lot of fun with your players and be surprised about what's next, just as they are, but also confident that whatever's next, it's going to be fun, it's going to be interesting, and you can handle it. You can take it and run with it and make the city come alive. So there you go. That's the cities section. We're going to look at NPCs, travel, and dungeons as well as how to prepare a whole campaign very shortly.